Welcome to TC Sports. I am your host, TC. I hope everyone out there, whoever you are and wherever you are, is having a fantastic and wonderful morning, evening, or night. This is my first ever stream and my first time ever hosting any type of show related to anything at all. Um, I really enjoy sports, particularly football, and that is what this stream is going to be targeted towards. Um, as you can tell by my various accessories, I am a diehard and true Broncos fan. Does it cause me misery? Often. Continuing off of my love of football, um, on my show, stream, broadcast, whatever you really want to call it. I prefer broadcast. It sounds more professional. I like it, Uh, as you can see, I'm wearing my suit and I am ready to charge forward into this unknown territory of sports media. And I think it'll be very enjoyable. And I hope whoever is watching this at the time is willing to accompany me along that journey. Um, anyway, I would like to begin by first talking about some news related topics, one old and one newer, and I'd like to start off with the newer one. Um, there have been a lot, well, maybe not a lot, but there have been a decent amount of rookie related controversies in the past concerning the NFL. And you could just go as far back as 1983 when John Elway held out from the Baltimore Colts because he had certain personal disagreements with their ownership and held out from their franchise and opted to be traded to the Broncos, who had the 4th overall pick. Eli Manning, who held out from the San Diego Chargers and opted to be traded to the New York Giants in 2004. One of the things that we haven't seen is a rookie draftee being sued by a large sports related company, namely Fanatics. And frankly, we've never seen anything like this. Now, what Fanatics is claiming is that the former Ohio State wide receiver has not lived up to, basically, his obligations that he has agreed to with Fanatics. Fanatics claims, and they have continued to claim, that Marvin Harrison Jr. had signed a rookie, not a rookie, but a deal in May of 2023 relating to his name, his, likeness being able to be on trading cards and jerseys, and all types of other memorabilia. Now, what Marvin Harrison Jr. is claiming is that this is not at all a binding contract or a binding enforceable contract. Fanatics seems to believe it is, and Fanatics continues to call it a binding term sheet. Now, what is a binding term sheet? First of all, I would like to say I am not a lawyer. The guy on your screen is not a lawyer, despite the suit. I know it looks nice. I know it looks very nice, but this is not a lawyer suit. This is a guy on the internet suit. And after doing a fair bit of research on my own, don't take legal advice from the guy on your screen, remember. After doing some research, a binding term sheet is not at all binding. In fact, the very nature of a term sheet is not at all binding. In fact, it is just a draft of what two parties come together and agree upon before they actually sign the enforceable contract. Now, I don't know how Fanatics believes that they have a claim here. An article from NBC says that it is a bold and risky move by Fanatics. Very bold, very risky. Fanatics needs to be 100% sure that it's 100% right. Lose this one, and good luck establishing and maintaining good relationships with other players. I mean, they're 100% right on this, because this lawsuit with Marvin Harrison Jr. is only going to cause Fanatics' reputation to take a steep decline with other rookie players who might intend to sign a contract with Fanatics, or maybe other competitors, but actually probably not other competitors, because what competitors of Fanatics will say is, hey, don't do business with Fanatics. They will sue you. So overall, it's just a really bad move for Fanatics. I don't think it'll do them any good in the long run. And there's not much pertaining to the case out. There is some information, though, pertaining to the deal that Marvin Harrison Jr. made in March of 2023. He signed a more short-term, limited deal with Fanatics in March of 2023 that was set to expire in April of 2024. Fanatics, though, claims that they came to Marvin Harrison Jr. and approached him for this so-called binding term sheet in May of 2023 that was supposed to be up to $1 million. The problem with that, however, again, is that it is a binding term sheet, not a binding contract, not a binding enforceable contract. It is not a contract, it is a term sheet. Now, a problem with this case, though, for Marvin Harrison Jr., is that Fanatics filed the case with the New York Supreme Court. The New York Supreme Court, in all honesty, has no obligation to find for Fanatics at all, and I don't honestly know why they would. However, they have, in fact, been able to find for people who have sued in the past based off of term sheets by themselves. In my opinion, I think that it's absolutely ridiculous that you can have a drafted idea of what you're going to put on a contract, not actually sign a contract, call it a term sheet, a binding term sheet, which, again, in its nature is not binding at all, and then claim that the player that you did not sign and only signed to a limited amount of time is somehow beholden to you to do the things that you want. I don't agree with that at all. I think if the New York Supreme Court is going to find for Fanatics in this case that Marvin Harrison Jr. is obliged to do the things that Fanatics wants him to do for them, in my opinion, I find it a very flimsy case for Fanatics. And no matter what, again, if Fanatics wins the case, if they win it, people aren't going to want to sign with them. You might sign with them if, you're 6th round, 7th round drafted, undrafted free agent, and, you're not sure if you're going to get on a team. You might want to, secure a little bit of income for yourself before maybe they send you to the UFL. I don't know. But for aspiring rookies and rookies who are looking to, be starters and be stars on their teams, like, I don't see how a star player like Marvin Harrison Jr., and don't get me wrong, he is incredibly talented. The only wide receiver in this draft class who could have competed with him was Malik Neighbors, and they both went to real iffy teams. But Marvin Harrison Jr. undoubtedly is the best receiver on his team, and if he's not the number one receiver at the beginning of the season, which I don't know why he would be or he wouldn't be, he's going to be the number one wide receiver at the end of the year. All it's going to do is disincentivize players from signing with Fanatics. That's all it's going to do. Fanatics has made an incredibly bad move here. I don't see how it can help them at all. I don't see how it helps the players at all. So I just think it's an incredibly bad move. And the other thing that's really funny, too, about this whole thing is people are talking about, well, you're not going to be able to play with Marvin Harrison Jr. on Madden. If you didn't know, on Madden, there's a thing called the Creation Center, and you can create your own players, and you can give a random player that you name Marvin Harrison Jr. the number 18 and give him similar stats however you want. Now, if you want to play with the actual player, that's a different issue. But why you're playing Madden in the first place is beyond me. I mean, I play Madden. I love Madden in the fact that it's football. I do not love Madden in the fact that it's Madden. Regardless, I digress. On to my second bit of news that I think is incredibly interesting. Um, the the Detroit Lions had one can only call a phenomenal year in terms of Detroit Lions standards. I mean, they went 12-5. They beat the Rams in the wild card by 1 point, 24-23. They, in some ways, handled the Buccaneers and beat them 31-23 in the divisional round. And they got to the NFC Championship, and they were winning the game at halftime. They were up, I believe, 24-10 on the San Francisco 49ers, and had a complete and utter implosion on all three phases of the football field. You're going up against somebody like Brock Purdy, and don't get me wrong, Brock Purdy's good. How good is he? Only so good that he could take a team with probably the most talented roster last year and take them to the Super Bowl. That's about how good Brock Purdy is. Regardless, the Detroit Lions had a fantastic year last year. And they finally, at least they think, they found their man in one guy called Jared Goff. And so they re-signed him. You can take a look here now at his contract details. They signed him for 4 years for a maximum amount of $212 million, a guaranteed amount of $170 million, and he is the highest, now officially the highest paid player in Lions history. If you don't call that being able to secure a quarterback future, I don't know what it is. Now, what is Jared Goff exactly in the terms of quarterbacking in the modern NFL? Jared Goff is probably one, if not the best, one of the best game managers in the league right now. Now, what does it mean to be a game manager, frankly? To be a game manager means you don't win your team the game, but you don't lose your team the game. Now, you have other players. You can make an argument, for instance, that Kirk Cousins is a better game manager than Jared Goff. I beg to differ. How many playoff wins does Kirk Cousins have in his career? One playoff win. He has been with formerly the Washington Redskins, and formerly now the Minnesota Vikings. They went 13-4 in 2022. They played a dawdling and not very good playoff team called the New York Giants, and got smacked around for 4 quarters basically, and lost 31-24 by a Daniel Jones-led Giants. Now, I know Daniel Jones is getting paid $160 million for 4 years. Why? That's beyond me. I don't make the decisions in New York or New Jersey. However, Kirk Cousins is not a proven playoff winner. He's not a proven primetime winner. Jared Goff, though he has worked with Sean McVay, and Sean McVay willingly shipped him off to Detroit for Matthew Stafford and got Matthew Stafford a ring, I don't see how Jared Goff can at all be considered in the lower tier of quarterbacks in the NFL. Jared Goff is easily in the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. Top 10, I might be able to name you 10 better quarterbacks than Jared Goff. However, to lead your team, first of all, with the Rams in 2018 to a Super Bowl and only score 3 points. I know he only scored 3 points, but he went to a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins has not gone to a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo has gone to one Super Bowl on his own accord. Couldn't get the job done. Now, Jared Goff has yet to get the job done. He can get the job done. He was incredibly close to getting the job done. I think, if anything, the Detroit's future is only looking upward from here. And not only did they secure their quarterback, that's only half of the problem. They also secured, so far, their coach. They found the guy. And as crazy as Dan Campbell may be, because the guy is sometimes a lunatic, he drinks over 1,100 milligrams of caffeine in a day. The guy is up there sometimes, but that's what counts. You get your quarterback, you get your coach. On the other hand, my Denver Broncos last year, we had our coach. We still think. Let's hope. I like Sean Payton. I think he's good. We did not have our quarterback, and we should have learned that before last year. But we're not a very smart organization, so we pay bad quarterbacks to be bad, and then we pay them to also leave. I'd rather pay them to leave, though. Regardless, once again, if you just take a look at the stats that Jared Goff puts up, this is his career stats. Over 30,000 passing yards. That's 260 yards per game. That is not an easy thing to do. Most good quarterbacks are considered even decent, pass for over 200 a game. 260, that's a lot more than one might expect from somebody like Jared Goff. He's been a really decent quarterback in the playoffs. Has he been Tom Brady? No, he hasn't been Tom Brady. Has he been Patrick Mahomes? No, he hasn't been Patrick Mahomes. However, a 4-4 quarterback record in the playoffs. I mean, you can call it mediocre. It's not the best thing in the world, but it is better than just about every other game manager in the league. Maybe besides Jimmy Garoppolo. And again, Jimmy Garoppolo was in San Francisco for a long time and had basically the Avengers of football around him. And again, they were winning by 10. They were winning by 10 against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. He couldn't get the job done. He had Emmanuel Sanders wide open over the middle and overthrew him. That would have sealed the game. They would have won. He couldn't get the job done. Once again, Jared Goff has not yet gotten the job done in any monumental games. If you put the right players around him, which the Lions have so far done a really good job of doing, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you have Sam Laporta. They have buffed up their line. You have a lot of really talented players on that line. They're going to be better this year, and I can only see their somewhat questionable defense last year improving. I don't see how they fall off the face of the earth. Now, are they going to be as good? I'm going to need to see it done twice in a row. Now, I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to win the division. And you'll see in a few minutes my prediction of the record. And I'm going to go through all the wins and losses of each team and my logic as to why. But if they want to repeat as NFC North champions, they're going to need Jared Goff to not make mistakes. They're going to need to perform better defensively. If they perform the same as they did last year defensively, they're going to have a long and difficult year. They need to get Jahmyr Gibbs the ball. That guy is fast. That guy is agile. He is a force. You're going to want to get Jahmyr Gibbs the football. Sam Laporta, he was utilized fantastic last year. I didn't expect him to be as good as he was. Sam Laporta was like if Dalton Schultz was a little bit bigger. That's kind of what he is, in my opinion. And they utilized him fantastically. I didn't expect him to break out as much as he did. But you have to remember everything that came from this was Jared Goff was shipped off to Detroit. He was shipped off to a crippled and addled and terrible Detroit team. And in his first year as a Detroit quarterback, his quarterback record in Detroit was 3-10-1. That is a terrible record. That is awful. But you have to remember, first year as Dan Campbell being coach, first year as a Detroit quarterback, first year being really, really bad, besides his rookie year where he went 0-7. Now, but if you take a look at who won the trade, I mean, just almost in every metric, Jared Goff surpassed Matthew Stafford. He's got in 3 years over a little bit over 1,000 yards in passing, but he has less yards per game. He has a better touchdown to interception ratio. He has a better completion percentage, and his quarterback record was slightly worse. The main difference between these two, Stafford has played quite a few less games than Goff's 7 exactly, and Stafford has always been riddled with injury questions throughout his entire career. A lot of people were questioning if he would retire after last year, and he hasn't, and he doesn't plan to. I don't think Stafford plays longer than 3 years tops. He's starting to get beat up. There was a game in his rookie year where the Lions were terrible and the Browns were terrible, and they were playing. And I'm sure if you've seen on NFL films the shot where they're at the goal line and Stafford takes a brutal shot right up his right shoulder and totally dislocates his shoulder. In fact, that NFL Films clip was I think the longest running clip without any cuts in it in all of NFL Films history. And, from that point, I mean, Stafford's tough. Don't get me wrong, he's tough. But injuries are also a serious question when it comes to longevity. You have somebody, again, I'm going to go to the Broncos here because that's what I know real good. Peyton Manning, his head was almost ripped off his body in a preseason game with the Redskins in 2011. Why he was playing is almost beyond me. I understand it. The work ethic is there, but at some point it's kind of unnecessary. And he gets his head almost ripped off. He comes back in 2012, wins Comeback Player of the Year, plays great. The next year wins the Super Bowl, or not wins the Super Bowl. Almost. Whatever your definition of almost is, but we get there and we get blown out. The next year he plays well, but not as good as he did the previous year. And then the next year completely falls off the face of the earth. Now, Stafford doesn't have a neck injury. Stafford can feel all the fingers in his right hand, I suppose. But injuries play a huge part in player longevity. Now, if you want to take a look at these stats, I think in the trade that really, let's be honest, the Rams won the trade. After the Super Bowl win from LA, where they went completely all in. They took all their draft picks, completely mortgaged their future, and said, we are going to win now. Why would they do that? Because they wanted to win now. And that's what they did. And the next year, they were awful. Stafford got hurt. They had to bring in Baker Mayfield. Frankly, that year was a disaster, except for when they beat my Broncos on Christmas Day, which was probably the best thing to happen to us because we fired Nathaniel Hackett the next day. Anyway, and then the year after that, you're like, well, they can't be good. They were awful the last year. Stafford's injury prone. He might retire. There's a lot of questions about these Rams. And they make the playoffs and give the Lions a fight in the wild card. They could have won that game. They seriously could have won that game. Nonetheless, the better team won. The winner of the trade, I think, has to be the Rams because Stafford got a ring. Stafford was an MVP contention. Serious MVP contention. The only problem was that he threw so many interceptions because Stafford is kind of the ultimate risk taker, which, you got to respect it. How else do you win games? How else do you win games when you're down by 10 with 2 minutes to go? Seriously, I have massive respect for guys like Aaron Rodgers because, to throw, I think in one season he threw, in one of his MVP seasons, he threw 38 touchdowns and I believe 5 interceptions. That takes incredible skill, incredible talent, incredible football IQ to do that. But he plays it safe. He plays it really, really safe. And the problem with that is that he cares about his stats a lot, too much, more than the team winning. The team have all eyes on you, and the media have all eyes on you, and everybody has all their eyes on you, and you're licking toads and God knows where. It's not team friendly. The deal he took wasn't team friendly with the Packers at the end, but I understand his frustration as well. When your number one option is a very young Christian Watson, and you're a veteran quarterback in the dusk of your life, not life, but football life. I understand the frustration, but you can't make it all about yourself. You have to air your frustrations out in the organization itself. You can't make everything public. You can't pull a Kyler Murray on Twitter and delete all your Cardinals pictures, because all it does is cause problems. All it does is cause strife. It's not a good look, and it never has been a good look, and it never will be a good look. So, with that, Goff, honestly, Goff is a great image for Detroit. After, coming from the Rams, being shipped off by McVay, kind of a real underdog story. Because when he got to Detroit, he said he's happy to be somewhere where he's wanted, basically is what he said. And Detroit has shown that they want him by paying him exactly what they believe that he deserves, and that is a lot of money. Is he the highest paid player in the NFL? No. Does he deserve to be the highest paid player in the NFL? Also no. But at the end of the day, it's a win for the organization. They get their quarterback for at least 4 years. They can build the team around him. They can restructure his deal if he has to. In my opinion, Goff is going to be a lot more team friendly than other quarterbacks. You have somebody like Dak Prescott. He's entering the last year of his deal. There seems to probably be no deal on the horizon. I mean, I know Jerry Jones has his ways, obviously, but is Dak worth $40 million a year? Is Dak worth $40 million a year? What has he won the Cowboys organization since he was drafted in 2015? What has he won for the Cowboys? A couple playoff wins? Any type of relevancy? Oh, relevancy in the regular season. Yeah, but what about the postseason? I don't think so. So, if I were the Cowboys, I'd be willing to move off of Dak Prescott. Am I saying the tank? No. Am I saying to try to win a Super Bowl? Yes. Will they? No. No, they won't. They do this every year. It's our year. It's our year. It is not your year. And it will not be your year until you get a quarterback who can win. And Dak Prescott cannot win. Dak Prescott is a fourth quarter stat patter. That is what Dak Prescott is. Dak Prescott has been the best when he has a running game. Ezekiel Elliott in his rookie year in 2015, that is when Dak was at his best. A rookie Dak Prescott and a rookie Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott has declined every year after his rookie year, and that was his best. For 2015, Ezekiel Elliott's best was Dak Prescott's best. Now the Cowboys think they can sign Ezekiel Elliott and make Dak good again. Ezekiel Elliott is not the same player. It is his 10th year in the league. 10 years for a running back equals 100. He's not going to be the same player. It's not going to happen. So, with that and all that NFC North quarterback talk, I would like to bring us to my NFC North, or icy, very icy, because it's cold up in the north and it's miserable. And I don't know how people live there, frankly. I've been to Chicago a couple times. I've only been in the summer. I will not go in the winter. Why will I not go in the winter? It's miserable, and it looks miserable. So I will refrain from going there anytime between November to March, let's say. Arbitrary, but it seems reasonable to me. Regardless, my icy NFC North predictions. Let's get right into it. And, jumping off of Jared Goff, we're going to start with the Detroit Lion record prediction. Now, they have a lot of opponents, as everybody does, because the NFL only wants to increase the amount of games that they have, because money, which I agree, I like money too. Money is nice. Regardless, they the first game of the season, the home opener, they are going to play the Los Angeles Rams. That will be an interesting game because it will be the third showdown between Matt Stafford and Jared Goff post trade. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't see how it isn't a close game.
Both teams are going to want to go in and win. The Rams almost had them in the wild card last year. I don't see how they don't want to, show them that this is our guy. We're lucky to have him. You guys should have kept him, but we have him. So I think that the Lions are going to go in with a win. The Lions, for some reason, cannot beat the Seahawks. I don't understand it. I know their defense has been bad against the Seahawks, but it's Geno Smith. It's Geno Smith. And Kenneth Walker isn't like Derrick Henry. He's not. Geno Smith is not Patrick Mahomes. I don't know why they have so much trouble. I think they lost 42-45, and then last year they also lost in like the second game of the season. However, I think they're going to get their win against the Seahawks this time around. Because the Seahawks don't look good. And they don't have Pete Carroll this year. And Pete Carroll, as old as he was and as sometimes deluded as he was when it came to drafting, he was kind of the thing holding that team together. Now they're going to have their bye week, and, you hope everybody wins their bye week, but a lot of teams don't get so lucky as, the Broncos have shown before. Regardless, they're going to go play in Dallas. I think they're going to lose to Dallas coming out of the bye week. The NFL loves Dallas. The NFL loves Dallas. They love to put Dallas on a podium. They should have beat Dallas last year. I was thinking about this game. I thought they were going to go into Dallas and they're going to show them who's who and they're going to win. And I think things aren't going to go their way. And I think they're going to come out with a loss after Dallas. But I think they're going to beat the Vikings because the Vikings have who's their quarterback? Oh yeah, J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy's agent did probably one of the best jobs I've ever seen promoting his quarterback. How did J.J. McCarthy go at 9? How? He in the national championship game, I think he threw for a little bit over 160 yards and completely just rode off of Michigan's run game. And their line was fantastic. I mean, props to John Harbaugh. I hope he does the same thing with the Chargers because I want Justin Herbert to have a winning team. I know I'm a Broncos fan. I know they're in the same division. But if the Chargers are good, the Chargers are good. I want them to be good. Now, if they're good for too long, then I have a problem. More than 2 years, then I'm going to have, I'm going to get a little bit of that hater in me. I hope Justin Herbert throws a lot of interceptions to whoever our cornerbacks are now besides Pat Surtain. We're irrelevant if you haven't figured it out by now. Regardless, I think the Vikings are going to lose to the Detroit Lions in U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis or St. Paul. I can't remember which city the stadium's in. Regardless, moving on to the Tennessee Titans. The Lions are going to get a win against the Titans. I'd like to believe in Will Levis. I kind of don't see it. I'm not wowed by him. He had a couple good plays last year. He threw 4 touchdowns in one game, and then threw 4 the rest of the season. I'm not impressed with the guy. They're gonna beat the Titans in Detroit. Then they're gonna play the Packers. The Packers always at least get one on the Lions. I don't know how they manage it, but the Packers are a good organization for having no ownership and kind of scamming their fans by selling them little plaques after they give the organization $50 or something. You now own a part of the Packers. You don't. You have a plaque that says you own a part of the Packers. You do not own a part of the Packers. You just gave them money like they're a non-profit organization, and then they flush it down the toilet, or they put it into the gross hot dogs at Lambeau. Either way, they're gonna lose to the Packers at Lambeau. Where did my graphic go? Anyway, next they are going to lose to the Texans. The Texans, to put it lightly, are scary this year. The acquisition of Stephon Diggs, the acquisition of more defensive help. C.J. Stroud looks good. He looks very good. C.J. Stroud, I think, is going to win the South this year. I don't see how they don't win the South. And, considering that their next opponent is the Jaguars. Oh boy, the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know what to say about Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars are kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was probably one of the greatest quarterback prospects of the last decade. And until they drafted him first overall, he had a terrible rookie year, a bad rookie year. The next year, Starts off shaky, but by midseason, he figures it out, and they make the playoffs. I mean, nobody really saw that coming after his horrendous rookie year. They make the playoffs. They beat the Chargers, which was huge considering that they were losing by a lot. They come back, they beat the Chargers in the wild card, and then go to the divisional against the Chiefs, and then they lose to the Chiefs. And then last year, they were 8-3. 11, 12 games in, they were 8-3 and completely collapsed. It's hard to say with Trevor Lawrence because you feel like he's got a lot of potential, but he's not living up to it. What they do with Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I don't see how you don't take his fifth-year option. It only makes sense to take his fifth-year option. But when it comes to sign that contract, I'm really interested to see what the Jaguars do. So anyway, they're going to beat the Jaguars. Next, they play the Colts. I don't see how the Colts beat them this part of the season. Nothing about the Colts is really impressive to me. Anthony Richardson might be good. That's all I really know about him from his play in the NFL. He might be good, but he gets injured. Moving on, they play the Bears. They're going to lose to the Bears. I think the Bears are an interesting team this year, but I'll talk about them later when we get there. They are going to beat the Packers in Week 14. Then they're going to lose to the Bills. It's going to get a little iffy at this part of the season because it's a hard stretch of games. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. On paper, should they be better? Yes, but let's be honest. They're the Detroit Lions. In order for me to believe that they're going to be good, really good, twice in a row, I'm going to have to see it twice in a row. If they prove me wrong, that'd be wonderful. I like the Lions. I have no qualms with the Lions. I hope they're good. But if they want to prove to me that they're going to be as good as they were last year or better, then they'll have to do it. Otherwise, I think they're going to regress just a little bit. On to my next team, the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers have an interesting situation, considering that Jordan Love, after sitting for quite a while, after being drafted out of Utah State, where they actually traded up to get him, and Aaron Rodgers was very fussy about it. He made sure everybody knew about it. The Green Bay Packers, they think, have found their guy in Jordan Love. After a lot of years, that game where he started a couple years ago against the Chiefs in a primetime game, and he played horrendously. I think they put up 10 points and they got beat pretty handily. I mean, the Chiefs didn't score a lot, but he played terrible. And all his starts prior to that, he was really rough. But the Packers believe that they have found their man with Jordan Love. And you've never seen a quarterback sort of revolutionize themselves the way Jordan Love did last year. The very beginning of the season, it looked like he was legit. He put up really good stats. They were beating teams. They came back against the Falcons in the second game of the year. They handled the Bears in the first game of the year. And then mid-season, he was looking really bad. It was looking really rough. And at the end of the season, it looked like they might have to even move, or mid-season, it looked like they might have to move off him by the end of the season. And then something happened where they just went on an incredible streak of winning games, and they made the playoffs, and they pounded the Cowboys in the wild card. I had never seen anything like it. I mean, everybody thought the Cowboys were going to win. Everybody thought the Cowboys were going to win. Everybody hoped the Packers were going to win. I hope the Packers were going to win at least. And that's exactly what they did. And they annihilated the Cowboys. The final score isn't at all a representation of what happened in that game. So, if we're going to take a look at the Packers and their record, they are going to play the Eagles in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, week 1. That's going to be an interesting game. I think the Eagles overall just have somewhat of a better roster than the Packers. They're a little more solidified. The quarterback is honestly a little bit more solidified. Not that Jalen Hurts is amazing. He's a very good quarterback. He was very good in 2022. A little less good in 2023. I think the Eagles have overall a better roster. I think they're going to beat the Packers in Brazil. And then the Packers have to fly all the way back to Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is a long flight. And they have to play the Colts. And I think they're going to lose to the Colts in week 2. And then they play the Titans in week 3. 0-2 is never a good start, but I think they're going to get a win against the Titans again. The Titans don't impress me this year. Why they fired Mike Vrabel is beyond me. Mike Vrabel was the only reason that team was any good in 2019. And Derrick Henry was good, and Ryan Tannehill for some reason was good because it was his contract year. Everybody's good during their contract year. And they sign that big old fat contract, and then they go right back to being mediocre the next year. It's always how it works. But besides Ryan Tannehill being serviceable, Derrick Henry being insane, and Mike Vrabel coaching a really good defense, I don't understand why they fired him. Their roster was poor, and you saw it coming down the pipeline. If they were smart, they would have kept Mike Vrabel. However, they will beat the Titans in week 3 at Nissan Stadium. In week 4, they will beat the Minnesota Vikings. Again, the Minnesota Vikings are not good. They're just not good. I don't think they're going to be good this year. I have no reason to believe they're going to be good this year, but I will get to that later. Then they play the Rams at SoFi. They're going to lose to the Rams at SoFi. I don't see them beating the Rams at SoFi. I think they're just going to have a rough start to the beginning of the year. I think Jordan Love's going to have a little bit of a rough start. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's the right guy. I want him to be good. He was really fun to watch at the end of last year when he was, clicking with his team on all cylinders. Their team is still really young. I think Sean McVay is just going to outcoach Matt LaFleur. I think that's really what it comes down to. And if Stafford is healthy, that will give him a huge edge against the Packers in that game. Then they play the Cardinals in week 6. They're going to beat the Cardinals. Again, Cardinals not going to be good. The only good part about their team is Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's it. Next week they're going to play the Texans. They're going to lose to the Texans because the Texans are just good. They're really good. They're probably the only team in the AFC right now who can even compete with the Chiefs, at least on paper. But the season starts and then the Chiefs struggle for a little while, and then by the end of the season, everybody's talking about who can beat the Chiefs, and then it ends up being nobody. And then I end up crying because they finally passed us in Super Bowls. Anyway. It's a rough time being a Broncos fan. Anyway, then we're going to play, the Packers are going to play the Jaguars week 8 in Jacksonville. They're going to lose that game because the Jaguars are really good at the beginning of the season for some reason. I don't know why. The first half of the season, they're always really good. Everybody says they're going to win the division every year at the beginning of the season, and then they fall apart at the end of the season. They're going to lose to Jacksonville in week 8. Then they're going to play the Lions. They're going to beat the Lions in week 9. We've already been over that. Then they're going to have their bye week in week 10. And then they will play the Bears in week 11 at Soldier Field. They will win that game against the Bears. And then they have to play the 49ers. Also thought this game could be a good revenge game for the Packers, but again, I thought about it. I don't think they're going to have it at this time yet. If they're really going to get clicking on all cylinders, it'll be towards the end of the year. But at this time, I think they're still going to be figuring it out. Week 12 is pretty late to figure it out, but I think they're still going to struggle against the 49ers. And then they're going to beat Miami because the game is going to be in Lambeau. And as we all know, Tua and the Miami Dolphins don't like the cold. Then they play the Lions again in week 4, and they're going to lose to the Lions. Then they're going to beat the Seahawks. And at this point, from week 15 on, is where the Packers go on a 4-game win streak and go 10-7 to finish so far second to the Detroit Lions in the NFC North. Honestly, I think to beat the Bears twice is perfectly fair because that's what the Packers do, is they beat the Bears. Aaron Rodgers started the tradition. They still own them. So I see that they beat the Bears twice. New Orleans Saints, not impressed with. Not impressed with the Seahawks. Not impressed with the Minnesota Vikings. So they will win 4 games at the end of the year and go 10-7. The Minnesota Vikings. Is J.J. McCarthy really going to be their starter? Who's their backup? Sam Darnold? Is Sam Darnold going to start over J.J. McCarthy? I'm not sure. A lot of people are projecting that Sam Darnold is going to start over J.J. McCarthy. I don't understand what's the point of starting J.J. McCarthy or picking J.J. McCarthy at number 9 overall. I think it's a terrible idea then. I think it was a terrible idea to draft him. I like Bo Nix, but I have a reason to like Bo Nix. I have a personal emotional investment in liking Bo Nix. And if he's not good, we're going to be a lot of crying this year. Silently. And where nobody can see me. So, regardless, I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a superstar. If he doesn't have a superstar team around him, he's not going to do great. Justin Jefferson is going to be great as always. J.J. McCarthy will look good through Justin Jefferson, but J.J. McCarthy, if he didn't have Justin Jefferson, would look like Wonder Bread. So, to start off the year, though, they play the poverty New York Giants in MetLife. And if nobody tears their Achilles or their ACL, hopefully, because MetLife's field is terrible, they should win that game and hopefully go unscathed. Then they will play the 49ers, the Texans, the Packers, and the Jets, all of which I expect them to lose because that is a hard schedule, even if they have to play the Jets in the UK. Not that it matters. They're still going to lose because the Niners are good, the Texans are good, the Packers are at least decent, and the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, who has made a tradition out of beating NFC North teams, besides the Packers. They're going to have a bye week, which hopefully they don't lose. They could. Then they're going to lose to the Lions. Then they're going to lose to the Rams. They're going to start off the season 1-6. Not good, frankly. And then they're going to beat the Colts. How they're going to beat the Colts, I'm not sure. I have a feeling they might beat the Colts, though. If anybody can remember a little game that was played by the Minnesota Vikings and the Colts in 2022, where the Colts were up by a substantial margin, I believe 33-3, maybe 31-3, and the Minnesota Vikings, led by then quarterback Kirk Cousins, found a way to come back and win, and thus Matt Ryan had blown another lead. Yeah, I have a feeling they might win that game, just because why not? Anyway, they are going to then lose to the Jaguars, because it's still kind of the first half of the season. The Jaguars haven't totally fallen apart, and they should probably beat a pretty terrible team like the Minnesota Vikings. I don't see how they don't. And then they will play the Titans, and they should beat the Titans because the Titans are somehow worse. They will play the Bears. They will lose to the Bears. They will beat the Cardinals. Again, the Cardinals aren't good. The Falcons, they're going to lose to the Falcons. I expect the Falcons to win the division this year with Kirk Cousins. They have a lot of decent offensive weapons, and they should beat the Bears here. I expect them to split with the Bears just because the Bears have a rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver. I believe they still have Matt Eberflus as their head coach, which why? I don't get that personally. Matt Eberflus is not good at all. But Caleb Williams is stepping into one of the best situations a rookie quarterback has ever stepped into. And so, but he's still rookie. So, when I see it, I'll believe it. That's what I just said with the Lions earlier. So, then they will play the Seahawks and win. They're going to go on a little bit of a nice winning pattern here, winning 4 out of their last 6, because the other teams that they're playing that they beat are terrible. And then they're going to play the Packers, and they'll win that one. They'll get at least 1 out of the Packers, I think. And then they're going to play the Lions, and they're going to lose against the Lions, finishing so far last in the NFC North with a record of 7-10. They're just not going to be good. They're not going to be good. And I think 7-10 is actually quite gracious in my opinion. I don't see how they do much better than this. I don't see how they do better than this, but I totally see how they could do worse. Um, they need quite a lot to go their way if they want to be playoff contenders, which they're not going to be this year. Either way, I'm going to move on to the Bears because the Bears are one of the more interesting teams this year. Drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall and drafting Rome Odunze 9th overall. They should be a very solid rookie to rookie, quarterback to wide receiver combo this year for the Chicago Bears. Not only does he have Rome Odunze, he also has DJ Moore from a trade in which the Panthers traded DJ Moore and a lot of first round picks, I think 2 specifically, to trade up for Bryce Young, which was a mistake. And the Bears also picked up Keenan Allen, who is a very good veteran wide receiver talent to have on the roster. Formerly one of the best route runners in the NFL. Still probably very high up there, but he's getting a little bit up there in age in terms of wide receivers. But Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Cole Kmet, I believe, is still their tight end, which is really good. And they also have DeAndre Swift at running back now. That is a very good, a very solid offensive lineup. I expect to see a lot of flashes out of this team this year, but we will see sort of how that goes. So you never know. But either way, they play the Titans' first game of the season at Soldier Field, which will be an interesting way for Caleb Williams to open up against Will Levis. I don't think that matchup will really make any headlines. I don't expect it to. But it should be an interesting game to see Caleb Williams go out there and do his thing against sort of a really poor Titans team. See if he shows a lot of flashes, little flashes, but we will see. But they will go out there and they will beat the Titans for sure. And then they have to play the Texans week 2, and the Texans are going to be monsters this year. I've already said it. They're going to be insane. They're going to lose to the Texans week 2. And then they have to play the Colts in week 3. They're going to lose to the Colts in week 3. Again, I don't know what it is with me and this feeling of the Vikings also losing. No, the Vikings were going to win against the Colts. That's right. I'm forgetting my own picks. That's not good. Regardless, I don't know what it is. I have this feeling with the Colts and them winning or losing. Frankly, I think the Colts are the perfect medium of being perfectly mediocre, not great, and again, their whole quarterback situation is odd. They had Anthony Richardson last year, who showed lots of flashes, and he was making a lot of flashy plays, and he looked really good, and then he gets hurt, and then so they have to throw in Gardner Minshew and kind of try to fight for a playoff spot towards the end of the year, and then they don't get it. So they ship off Gardner Minshew to the Raiders. Anthony Richardson is their guy now. Is he good? That's what I want to know about Anthony Richardson. When he was drafted, I didn't think he was good. He showed that he was pretty good at the beginning of last year. Is Anthony Richardson good? I don't know. But I think this year, if he's able to stay healthy, I think will be a really good test to see if Anthony Richardson is going to be the Colts guy for the foreseeable future, at least until they can decide whether or not they want to pick up his 5th-year option. But we will have to see about Anthony Richardson. Regardless, the next game after the Colts, they're going to be 1-2 after week 3. They're going to play the Rams, and they're going to lose to the Rams. I think a lot of these teams lose to the Rams, besides the Lions. And frankly, I just think the Rams are very well coached. It doesn't come down to a lot more than that because Sean McVay, all those motions he runs will fluster incompetent defenses and defensive coordinators. And I don't know how competent the Bears defense or defensive coordinator is going to be. I don't know who the Bears defensive coordinator is. I don't know how good they're going to be. But I do think they lose to the Rams in week 4. They're going to beat the Panthers in week 5. Why would they beat the Panthers in week 5? Because the Panthers are terrible. Moving on, they're going to beat the Jaguars in week 6 for no particular reason other than I think Caleb Williams is going to outplay Trevor Lawrence. really no other reason than that. Then they are going to have their bye week. They will lose to the Packers in week 11. And then they play the Vikings in week 12, which, again, the Vikings are bad, so they're going to beat the Vikings. And improve to 7-4 again, which for Bears standards is really good. I don't think the Bears have been that good since 2020, and that's when they beat Tom Brady that year. Before they sort of had a late season collapse. And then they're going to beat the Lions. They'll lose to the 49ers. Again, all these teams are going to lose to the 49ers. 49ers are really good. They're going to lose to the Vikings at least once. They're going to lose to the Lions. They're going to lose to the Seahawks. And then they're going to lose to the Packers. And unfortunately, that 5-game losing streak will put them at 3rd in the NFC North and will probably likely take them out of playoff contention for the 2024 season. Either way, that will be the end of this broadcast, this first broadcast today. And before we go, I would like to go to the wheel of my fate, because it's my fate in having to pick the next team that I'm going to predict, or not team, the next division I'm going to have to predict the records for. So, as you can see, I have everybody on here besides the NFC North, because I thought the NFC North would be a good jumping off point. We're going to take it for a spin real quick, and we're going to see exactly which division I'm going to do next. And it looks like it's going to be the AFC West. That's tragic. The Broncos are going to win all 17 games until proven otherwise, as everybody knows. Because why wouldn't they? They're just so incredibly good. And I expect them to win the division, and we're going to beat the Chiefs twice, and we're going to beat the Raiders twice, and nobody can tell me otherwise until I am proven wrong. That will be all for today. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Also, I will update my streaming schedule. It's a little inaccurate right now. I don't know what exactly I was on when I decided I was going to do streams at 6 a.m. I'm not going to get up that early. So, if you check my page on Twitch, I will be updating my streaming schedule very shortly. Thank you. Goodbye. Sounds good.